Hello.
Hi, how are
How
you?
are you? I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. I'm in the middle of exam session, so a bit stressed,
Are
but
you really?
yeah.
Oh my God. Have you done any exams or are you about to start them?
It's about to be over soon, so only
Oh,
one
okay.
Monday, so it's okay.
Oh God. Good luck.
Thank you. But
That's a
anyway,
bit rough at the beginning of the year.
what?
That's a bit rough at the beginning of the year. Like you just had Christmas and New Year's, and the next minute you're in exams.
Yeah, we have
Dang.
to study while celebrating Christmas and New Year. It's a bit
Oh,
rough, but that's
well, good
okay.
luck.
But I'm so happy to have you as the first guest of this year because it's the
Yeah.
second year of my show. And I used to watch you when I was a kid, so it was quite a long time ago in
Yeah.
H2O. So
Yeah.
and yet we could have thought that 10 years later I'd be I'd be interviewing you at midnight because it's midnight here.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, messing with your study plans and all of it. Oh, it's
No.
terrible.
But yeah, it was in 2006, and I'm still wondering how could you move with that huge big mermaid tail? It's always like a
Yeah. Well, we certainly had a lot of training for it
yeah,
because that was super, super heavy. But we had a really, really great stunt coordinator who worked with us. So we had a couple months of stunt training before we'd start each season to just like get fit enough and just do the training and like remember how to do it all again. So that we had a lot of help being able to do that.
and in 2016 you decided to return as Rikki in the reboot. I haven't watched it, but I wonder after
It's
so many
you for a
years,
bit.
what?
Sorry, you just dropped out for a little bit. Say that again.
Yeah, so I was saying, why have you decided to return as Rikki so many years after in the reboot?
Um, yeah, it was a very big decision. I think I realized once we'd finished shooting, I realized how amazing the show was in that there was three female leads
Yeah,
and the story is all about friendship and um, supporting people around you and all that sort of stuff. So I really, as I got older, I've really appreciated what the series means to people, especially young people growing up. I
yeah,
think it only really hit me a little bit later. So it's a beautiful thing to be involved with, and I have now realized how much Ricky's touched people as they've grown up, and just that allowance to be maybe a little bit flawed, but also sticking up for yourself and loyalty being a very big thing, but also she's still a little bit of a prickly pear, so she's far from perfect, but I think it just made sense at that point, and it was cool that they were doing another series of it. So it was nice to come back in as like the older experience, sort of like adult. And then I loved the storyline of her sort of having become very successful within that realm and using
yeah.
what she had with being a mermaid to go on to do other things. So yeah, it was just really cool. It was a fun experience, and the girls in that season were so cool as well. It was really fun. I had a great time shooting with them.
Does Rikki Evolutions made sense for you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was a little bit surprised in a good way, but I really liked that they had made her like this like very well known sort of successful semi sort of scientist sort of thing. So yeah, I love that. I thought it was really, really cool.
and did it felt like the OG H2O, or was it really, really different?
No, it was definitely very different. I think also there's like a certain bond that the when you're doing that show, it's a really, really tough shoot. It's very, very physical. There's only 3 leads, so you're working really long hours, and then it's also hard on your body. So there's a real bond that gets formed with the 3 girls. And so obviously I came into that new season not in that little sort of like group. So it was very, very different. The set was different as well, but I could see their sort of the similarities between the 3 of them and then the 3 of us. And so it was, yeah, it was definitely very, very different. And I was such a different person going back into it as well. Like I couldn't look at it the same way because I was such a different person.
Yeah, and after H2, or a lot of fans asked me to ask you that your co-stars have worked together again in the originals, and
Yeah.
yeah, and they asked me to ask you if you have been contacted to or not to do the.
So to do no, 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 no. I stayed in Australia for a lot longer. So I have been in the States for the last couple of years, but no, that was not my route to go.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you really want to stay in Australia.
Yeah, at that point, with just what was going on in my life, I think it was important that I was here, and eventually I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to sort of see what would happen if I could go to the States and see what other work there is, because obviously there isn't a whole lot of work in Australia. Like our industry is very, very small. We were very lucky to land up on a series that went for 3 seasons because it's a very small industry. So yeah, big difference between the US and Australia, but I just I needed that time to be home.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
now you are in a new series called Everything is Doing Great that aired last night, I think, for the US.
Yeah. Yeah.
And can you tell us a bit about it? Because here in Belgium, we don't have it. So I can.
Yeah. So it was kind of like a dream job for me because I'm working with my friends, and it's an improv based show. So we sort of workshopped these scripts for a couple of weeks before we ever started shooting, and we just did the pilot initially. And so James and Stephen produced it. So we did the pilot, and it's basically it's a good way to explain it. It's like, have you ever seen Entourage?
No.
No. So Entourage sort of like glorifies the life of an actor and like how good it is and all the good things about being an actor. And our show is definitely the complete opposite of that. So it just goes through all of the hard parts about being an actor. And so it follows James, Stephen, and Alex, who's a very good friend of mine. They have finished a vampire show like 5 years ago, and they're trying to work and live in the world with people being like, oh, you're that girl from the vampire show and all that sort of stuff. So it's just all the bad things about being an actor, and it's a comedy. So it's like quite painful because it's so real in terms of what it's actually like to be an actor. But yeah, I mean, if you can't laugh, you'll cry. So we've chosen to laugh at it. So yeah.
So you really think, as an actor, that when you are playing someone such iconic, like for example, the Friends in France, it can be tough after that to get rid of those characters and then have difficulties to find a new job because people are actually will always seeing you as those characters.
Yeah, it's really, really tough. There's certainly a big adjustment period once actors have played those really sort of iconic characters, and obviously it's well documented, but it follows actors on like different levels as well. So it's not just the actors who played iconic characters. It's about the whole experience of trying to get yourself into a position of working in as an actor, and then it gets to the point where it's like, oh no, am I going to become too well known as this character, and then what am I going to do afterwards if no one's going to let me do anything else? So it follows like the whole gamut of like not being able to work to like, oh no, now I'm too well known as this specific sort of character.
And what's I think your character is Isabella Baker in it. And how can you describe your character? What's her
I think that Isabella sort of represents there's sort of like a type of Australian actor that will go over to the States and will like really embrace that lifestyle and date well-known actors, and they buy into the whole world of doing that. So I'd like to think that I'm different from that, but it's sort of a little bit of a jab at the amount of actors that go over there and just next minute it's like, oh, okay, who are you? What is this? What is going on here? So it's a little bit cheeky, and she's definitely flawed for sure, but she's so unaware of what she's doing. So she's just trying to cope with her own things and being friends with the three sort of well-known vampire actors and stuff like that. So it's definitely a little bit cheeky, but it's really fun. It's definitely, there's nothing in it that's malicious or anything. It's just sort of like poking fun at that whole world.
And about the show, while I was preparing this interview, I checked the Instagram of the show, and I wonder what took so long for the show to air, because in 2019 it looks like it was ready, and we are in 2021.
2021, Well, that's kind of the beauty of independent. It's very, there was no backing. The show had not been previously sold. They didn't know where EDG was going to fit, but James and Stephen just really wanted to make this series the way that they wanted to make it, without people sort of saying, oh, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. So it's very, very independent. They made it exactly the way that they wanted. They also edited it themselves, and like they did everything, the two of them. So it's definitely taken a little longer because it was very hands-on for them. But I think what it means is that at the end of the day, they've got a product that they are 100% happy with. They haven't had to compromise on anything. It's just the show is what it is supposed to be from the initial sort of concept of what they wanted it to look like.
And now that the show has found home with Hulu, are you already talking about making a season 2?
Yeah, well, hopefully that would be absolute best case scenario, is to do another series. I think they did a really good job of ending the series with a lot of sort of possibility of where another series could go, and if there's just a lot of longevity to the concept. So yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, it was the most fun I've had on a set. It was just an absolute dream. So fingers crossed we go for another series.
And do you think they're going to export it in Europe, for example?
Yeah, I hope so. I think I don't know exactly what the rules are in terms of selling to Hulu that only has a certain sort of territory that they sort of show in. So I think the hope would be to obviously sell it to as many territories as
Yeah.
possible that Hulu doesn't cover. So yeah, I think now that it's on Hulu, and I think it will do well. I think the timing of it, in terms of it being in America, the fact that it's very, very light, it's funny. I think that it's a really good time for it to come out. I think people will really appreciate it. I think everyone needs a bit of a laugh at the moment. So hopefully, if it's doing well on Hulu, then every other streaming service will have their ears pricked up looking at how they can get it as well.
You know, we were talking about actors having iconic roles, and I was wondering, do people still talking about you to you about H2O? I mean, obviously, I asked you two questions about it, but you know, I wasn't planning to do it. It's because I asked to the people on my Instagram what would they like to know about you, and obviously, there's
Yeah,
a question about H2O, because
yeah.
I don't know if it's, you know, flattering or annoying for you to talk about something you did years ago, despite the fact that you did many things after that, you know.
Yeah, no, I think I'm very comfortable and very grateful for the fact that it still is so what's the word? It still is. I mean, the fact that there's young kids only now just starting to like get on board with it it's a huge compliment, and it's amazing to be a part of something that's so widely loved. So I'm very proud of it, and very happy to talk about it.
Yeah. You know, the thing that disappointed me with the show is that I thought from the very beginning that Rikki was lesbian, and I would have
Yeah,
loved it. Yeah, I don't know. She had that energy, and for, you know, for LGBT people like me, or well, but I only know me as a LGBT,
yeah,
it could have,
yeah.
you know, changed everything.
Yeah, I don't think they knew or realized while we were sort of shooting that Rikki, it's something that I've heard from people a lot as well. And I take it as such a huge compliment, because there's so many people that are just like, Rikki really helped me just sort of like accept that was 100% completely fine, you know. So I think it was probably a little bit of a missed opportunity, but I don't think they knew what they were doing at the time. I think they were definitely angling on her being a little more what's the word? Just a little bit more adventurous, I think, than the other girls. And so I think that sort of kind of goes into it. But I mean, she didn't end up with Zayn at the end. So who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe that's when she realized that she was gay as well. Like, you just never know. But yeah, it's amazing how that has become a real sort of like theme, and the amount of people that have had that experience with Rikki. And I think it's the greatest honor ever. So yeah, maybe I'm sure there's probably some fan fictions out there that sort of
I'm sure.
take her down that road as well. So maybe we'll just have to live with the fan fictions for now.
Would like to play more characters to, you know, represent LGBTQ, or I don't know, represent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I would love to play characters who are every kind of walk of life. I know that there's obviously a very big conversation at the moment about who should be playing groups who are definitely needing more representation. So it's just a matter of figuring out where we draw the line with, you know, that there is sort of chat out there that a straight actor shouldn't play
yeah,
a gay character. So it's really hard. It's a really tough conversation, because that is unfortunately what we're supposed to sort of do, is to play people
Yeah.
from all walks of life, and that's sort of your job, is to be able to do that. But I understand. I guess the issue is just that there needs to be an assurance that a gay actor had as much access to that role as a straight actor, in the way that for so long these, if they were being represented, these minorities weren't even getting a look in to be cast as someone who truly was that character, and in the way that they live in their normal life. So I think it really comes down to the access of it. But obviously I wouldn't want to get in the way or sort of hurt that community and this opening of access for people to be represented now. If it's not my place, then it's not my place, basically. So yeah, but I would love to. I absolutely would love to. So it's just if people will let me, basically.
Okay, I got one more question. It's like a tradition. I'm asking that one to every guest that
Yeah.
to interview.
Yeah.
In your life, you did a lot of interviews, but it's always, work related and often the same question. And
Mm-hmm.
if you could interview yourself and tell something you
Mm-hmm.
really want to share with people, what would it be? It's the same reaction every time.
Gosh, that's such a good question. Oh man, I think this is the first thing that came to my head, so I'm just going to run with it. It might not be the actual proper answer, but I'm going to think about this because that's a very, very good question. I think if I was to interview myself, and I think one really important question that probably needs to be asked more of people in every walk of life, not just actors, is what they're doing and what they hope to do that's helping other people. So the legacy they are going to leave in terms of how they helped people that are coming after them. So I would love to be asked that. And I honestly don't even know what I'd say back at this point. I think, like I've always said, I've had like such a great life, and having done so much stuff when I was so much younger as well. Like I just feel like I've had such a phenomenal life. I'm so incredibly lucky. But having known the impact that H2O and Rikki has had on people's lives, and in other roles as well, but that's obviously the one that I'm most well known for, in the way that I've touched people the most. Knowing how much Rikki has helped other people, I could die happy tomorrow, because I feel like that in itself is a pretty great legacy to leave. And so now it's just up to me to make sure that I continue to do that. And it may look very, very different the way that that happens, but to just make sure that I, at the end of my life, feel like I spent enough of my time and effort helping other people, so that when I leave, I've been a positive influence on the world, basically. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, all right. I've never really been like flabbergasted before. I was like, oh, I haven't even thought about that. That's a brilliant question.
That's why I really like to ask you, because people always like it's really funny.
It's tough. It's hard. I mean, I don't know if, I actually think that's a pretty good answer. I think that would probably stand as my answer, but it's just such a good question. I'm very impressed.
Thank you. So thank you so much for your time. It was such a pleasure.
Of
The
course.
interview will be released on Monday. I will post it on Instagram and add you. So if you want to share
No worries.
it, it's free of you. You can do it, or you can.
No worries. Well, thank you so much. It's been really lovely chatting to you.
Thank you. So have a nice.
And good luck with your exams.
Thank you.
All
Really.
right. Bye.
Bye.